Welcome back, everyone. My name is Kenneth Ellington. I am the host and owner of the Ellington Cyber Academy. And on today's episode, we have on Quinyon Nave from the U.S. Army and Nave Security. Quin, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I am starving. I'm not gonna lie. I want tacos after this, but that's a problem for a little bit later.
What kind of tacos? I like burrito tacos.
From Torchy's Tacos, actually. If you've ever been to like Texas or the Midwest, they're like super popular here. They're like absolutely
Not yet.
delicious. But anyways, I'm glad to have you on today, Quin. So the first question we normally try to ask any one of our guests is to see what they do see what they do on their job. So what do you do exactly?
So can I kind of just like steer this in a little direction? Because I feel like I just want to
Please.
give my background because I've done a lot of things. Okay, so before the army, I was in like a IT program at my high school, and I did like IT support and system administration work. And then after high school, I joined the military as a network administrator. And but being in the military, you kind of fall into like many different roles. So I went from network administrator up to network engineer, then like system administrator, and now the biggest would be ISSO. And then outside of that, I also run my own business as a CEO and penetration tester, wearing other hats as well.
So on that journey, what was the biggest reason you want to join the military?
Um, so I'd say I always had like a interest in the military, and it was always like in the back of my mind. But then reality hit. It was like senior year, and I realized I didn't have like funding for school as I thought I would. It's kind of interesting because I went back and forth with like the military recruiters and the like ROTC recruiters because I did a lot of research and I realized like what role I wanted to be in the military. But it was either like go through school first, go through ROTC, be an officer, commissioned officer, or just go enlisted and go the other route. And for me, I kept going back and forth because I was telling them like, I want to do this. I want to be a warrant officer, but to be a warrant officer, you have to be enlisted and then work your way up because you have to be the most highly technical person there, right? So I kept going back and forth, and then finally, I remember one of the commanders in the military. He came down to me. He drove like 3 hours just to talk to me, and we made a deal. He was like, "I want you to go for the scholarship. If you get the full ride, then it's a full ride. You get your degree. Why not? But if you don't, then go enlisted, and then choose to go back to college afterwards or during the military." So I really liked the idea because they gave me both options, and that's what I did. I ended up getting a 3 year scholarship, but I still turned it down because at the end of the day, I realized that I wanted to be enlisted. I wanted to be technical. I don't. At first, I didn't want to like manage people. I wanted to be the one doing the work. I wanted to be like the highly technical person, and I just stuck to what I felt.
Gotcha. So I guess when you joined the military, what was the hardest aspect for transitioning to actually doing your technical work for them, for what you're allowed to tell us?
Um, well, the military in general, it was life changing, but I feel like most of it was like mental because like a mental challenge because you're working with people from all over the US and even from different countries. You're working with people from different cultures, backgrounds and all that, and you're just trying to um make a good like ecosystem basically. So there's definitely a mental challenge, physic and also like a physical challenge. So like going through your basic training and all that. In terms of technical, I'd say it'll be like limitations on like what you can do and like what you can't do. For example, so let's say as like a administrator, you want to like just mess with the network all you want. It's like, oh well, you can't do that because that's like mission critical stuff. You can't like don't have like time to tinker around with stuff that you want to do. That's for example like one of the issues that we made like that I came across before.
Gotcha. And so how would you say the military compares to, I guess, civilian technical roles? Are there any similarities, would you say?
Um, in my opinion, I would say the civilian side is like more relaxed. You kind of have more freedom to mess around with things. With the military, I'd say it's really just it's kind of like a cycle of things. Like things must happen at like certain times, um, a certain way. Everything's like a strict process. So it's real easy to like learn your job, in my opinion. Like, and that's how I was able to move up because like as I'm going through the same things every single day or whatnot, it's like, okay, I understand how to do this. I'm good at it, and let me try out something else.
So it sounds like the military gave you a lot of discipline, what I said. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I guess my next question would be, how has the military, how's that experience and knowledge help you start your own company for Nave Security?
Ah, man, honestly love this because what really made me start my company was I'll say it was like a push, like a negative push. So I remember back when I was in Korea, I was I was doing a lot of different things, but one of the biggest things I was trying to do is like build out like a new like cyber range for my unit. I was trying to do like a lot of like training on the side. And I remember my team chief told me, he was like, no, we don't have time for that. And it was like something else I was trying to do, and he just kept telling me no. And I was like, I'm tired of people who tell me no. I like doing things my way. That's what I realized. Like, uh, I'm just a person where I have an idea. It's like I'm gonna go do it, and I'm gonna find a way to do it, whether you like it or not. So I realized I was like, well, I can't do this in the military. Well, I'm gonna do it on my own. And I was also kind of already doing like IT work before, like consulting. So I did a few things for like my uncle and a few other small business owners like back in Maryland, where I'm from. So I was already kind of in that business mindset without even realizing it. But I remember that one instance once he like kept telling me no, I was like, I think I want to do this.
Yeah, I completely understand that thought process. That's kind of how I feel. But yeah, there might be like a process or a task where I'm like, why am I doing this, right? It doesn't make any sense. And I know I can do it better, but because of how the company works, how the firm works, for whatever job role, I'm not allowed to do it,
Definitely.
which bothers me a lot. So that is one of the best things I really enjoyed about owning my own company is that I have ultimate control over what goes inside of a product, how I treat my people, how I treat my staff, right? Which feels absolutely amazing. I guess I would say it's a lot of stress sometimes, right? Because ultimately I can't point the finger at anybody else, right? Because it's our company. But I don't mind that pressure because I really do love what I do. I can tell you, I can see you the same passion. When
Yeah, man, I love the grind.
So what has been, I guess, the biggest challenge, struggle, hurdle with you starting up your own company?
Um, Honestly, the biggest thing was like the mental struggle because I thought about it for a while, but I kept telling myself like, no, I'm away. Like, no, I'm not smart enough. I don't have all the technical skills. But I remember a lot of my mentors kept telling me like, man, you just need to do it. You need to get started. So I remember actually about like a year ago, that's when I really pushed to get started. I started talking to like a different project managers because I didn't know anything about business. I just had an idea, so I was like, I was sharing with people. I was like, hey, I have this idea and I just want to do it. So I remember I got started, but then I feel like it was like the mental block. And once I got over it and realized like, okay, I can do this, then everything was pretty straightforward. But besides that, for me right now, I'd say it would be like the funding because I know there's like a lot of things that I want to do. Just like, oh, I may not have like the funding for it, or because, for example, it's like a lot of businesses that I want to work with, but like to get on their platforms, they'll be like, okay, like, well, it's gonna cost like 20,000 or something like that, and I just tell them like, hey man, like I'm a startup, like it only been like a month or two, like I don't even have that yet. So that's another thing. Another one would be like finding the right people, or finding people that's like willing to compensate. So like I mentioned before, it's like a lot of great things I have in mind, and I want to help people, but a lot of people don't really want to like work for like no money or something like that. So for me, what I try to do is try to find a way to compensate. So for example, like one of my interns, they wanted to like learn more about cybersecurity, and I was telling them like, okay, well here, let me just buy you like a try hack me subscription. Let's just start there so you can go through their platform, things like that.
Gotcha. If my first question from that would be, I give my statement. It's not a question, more a statement. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Because we talked about this a little bit, I think, last week. Because you said that you're like, Kenneth, I don't know if I should make my own content. You're like, there's already THM, they started trying to hack me. I'm like,
Yeah.
Quinn, the thing I try to get people to understand is you're your voice, your story, your personality, that's all unique towards you, right? Somebody can literally do the same thing you do, but the way you explain it and the way you are makes sense towards them, right? So there may be somebody that does hack the box, right? But the way they do it doesn't make sense to them, so they don't really learn the material. And then they see you, they see your
Yeah.
personality, your story may relate towards them. They're like, ah, man, I get this guy. His stuff makes sense towards me, and then they'll purchase your product. Um, so I say that for me, that's probably the biggest thing that I figured out, right? For some reason, people like the way that I explain things. I guess it relates towards my story. I don't know why. I think I'm kind of boring, but I guess other people I'm not. So because of that, there's a lot of people that like what I do, right? Everyone doesn't, but you're not trying to appeal to everybody, right? So I just want to keep that in mind. Is what I try to tell people whenever you're trying to build your own brand or own content. Because you do have a unique story, when you are very smart or you are very intelligent. So what you do is very important, and people can get value from that, I would say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, for me, I'm really getting into healthcare security and like medical device security. So that's like my niche that I'm working I'm working towards. So I would say that that's another thing. So I really like I like talking. I got motor mouth. That's one thing I realized. But I'm always talking about like my goals, what I want to do, and like I'm always sharing it with people. So even if someone like did steal my idea, well, I just think like, well, I'm gonna still do it regardless. That's one thing I just realized. I'm gonna still do it regardless because I feel like I'm very competitive. So I'm if you steal my idea, I'm gonna still find a way to make it better.
Yeah. And again, like, right, that person isn't you. So even if they steal the idea, it doesn't really matter. It's like the
Hmm.
implementation of it, probably the biggest thing. And so you talked about multiple times so far about doing more of the healthcare security. What made you want to niche down to that area?
I always been interested in healthcare for like a long time. From like going to the doctors, just any like healthcare facility. I was always interested in it, just on like the medical side. But then what really got me interested was I was listening to not try hacking, Darknet Diaries, and there was a story about a guy who hacked into a laser that was being used in like mid surgery. And I was thinking, I was like, what? Like that's possible? So I'm just thinking, like, man, I need to learn more about like these medical devices, and then I started looking more into like biotech and all that, and it just really got me interested. I started watching like sci-fi stuff, and I was just interested because I just realized like, okay, it's futuristic, but it's still a possibility. Like you can still hack these devices. And then I started reading up about how someone like hacked into their pacemaker and infusion pumps, all these different devices. And I was like, wow, like I need to do something about that. I when I think about it, it's like it just makes me feel complete. Like at first, like pen testing, security, whatever, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, but I feel like I don't know why I'm doing it. But then when I think about like, people's health and all that, their healthcare, even like their family, like they use medical devices everywhere. They're starting to be implanted in the people, and I just want to make a difference with that. I want to make them secure.
That's really awesome to hear, Quinn. Yeah, I would say, especially in the US, there's a lot of issues with our medical system. We can probably do an entire episode just on that. But from like a funding
Well,
perspective, I'm sorry, I'll go
uh,
ahead.
I was gonna say, so I had an interesting conversation with someone last week, and we was talking about like medical devices and the security of them. And one thing that the lady told me, she was like, "Well, when you think about medical devices, they're not made for a certain country or company. They're made for the entire world. So if there's like a vulnerability or exploit that's out there for like one device, they're in all the other countries. They can be in like third world countries that may not even have strong like IT people out there or systems set up to protect against these attacks. So that was just like a like really an eye opener for me. So like at that point, it's not just security. It's like it's saving mankind in a way.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad people out there. So we have to be very vigilant about what we do. Yeah, I didn't. I guess I never really thought about it that way. That yeah, it's not really made for a specific company or industry, right? It's just made for people in general. So if
Hmm.
you're able to get inside one type of device, you kind of access towards everything, which can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm glad there are people like you, Quinn, but they don't like anything about hospitals whatsoever or medical devices. Um, that's not my
I'm
area.
Hey man, I'm still learning. I think I'm even going to get my degree in biomedical engineering. That's what I'm looking into next.
Awesome. Do you have a particular school in mind that you want to go to?
Honestly, I kind of been looking into I believe it's Arizona State,
Gotcha.
but also been looking to John Hopkins. And I'm from Maryland, so I'm just I don't know. I just gotta see what's good around. I gotta get recommendations. I also want to talk to like the deans and all that other schools. I want to like share my ideas, like what I want to do, and get recommendations from them.
I did want to
Gotcha.
jump in and say happy Monday. Kind of came on a little bit late. Hey,
Happy
Quinyon
Monday,
and Kenneth,
Courtney.
how's it going?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Good, good. You sound like basically you're being a superhero of the world, trying to take on as far as bio and technology. I definitely love to hear that because especially technology within the healthcare field is it's advancing, and just to hear that story because I've heard stories as well with technology dealing with surgeries and making sure that everything is functioning correctly. That's huge. That's really big. So definitely excited for you to get into that field. I didn't know that you were from Maryland. I'm actually from Maryland as well. So
Oh,
if
what
I
part?
find from Fort Washington, so I'm literally
Uh,
about 15 minutes. I know Maryland is big, so I'm about 15 minutes away from VA and DC as well.
I'm in. I grew up down in Southern Maryland. So do you know where like
Okay.
Waldorf is?
Yep, that's where I'm actually at now. I'm in the Wardle
Oh,
area.
hey man, I'm gonna be there next week. Well, this
Oh,
week actually.
gotta let me know. Gotta let me
We
know.
were just talking about that, Kenneth, too.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta let me know. And if I do find any recommendations for like schooling and stuff, I'll let you know. I'll send you some recommendations for that.
Okay, cool. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Well, Quinn, I guess my next question for you would be, what do you see as the future of Nave security, and what are your goals with it?
Ooh, I love this question. So with my business, I really want to just crack down with healthcare security. Really get more hands on with medical devices. I'm also working on building like an institute, as we was like just discussing before. I'm working on creating certifications and but I want everything to be focused around the healthcare industry. I feel like once I have everything lined up, it's really gonna be a game changer.
I had a question for you because I know you are in the
Yeah.
military. How do you see yourself combining like the military and then your business as well?
Um, That's kind of a hard question because like as of right now, it's kind of like separate. So like people that work with it know I have a business and all that, but in terms of like working, like integrating my business into the military, like getting a contract or something, that's something I can't really do right now. But when I do transition over, I will look into just contracting with with the military, with the government, especially ones that's working in the healthcare sector.
Right. Yeah, I know. Eventually, once you get out, then that's where you can make that transition. I was just curious because you have a lot of people who do come out the military, and then they're wanting to do more so like the contractor base, still giving back in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an exciting thing to do as well.
Yeah. Speaking of the military, I just wanted to say something real quick. So, a lot of people will try to like say the military is bad or whatever, or have a lot of negative things to say about the military. But me personally, I think it's great because I only came in the military with a vision. I just told myself like I just want to work in IT in the military to give it a try, and I had that drive and the purpose, and that basically led to like where I am today, and just asking myself why am I doing this? That was like a big thing because that really helped me understand like what I'm doing, why am I doing it, and even like what do I want to do. So I always tell people like ask yourself why, like what's your purpose for what you're doing, and just drive with use that as your driving tool. Because I know some people like they came in the military, did the bare minimum, and they'll just be like, oh well, this sucks or whatever. And it's like, oh no, I just tell them like it's only sucks because you don't have a purpose. So for me, it's like I already had my purpose, and like you're just doing like one job. I did like five. Like that's just like the difference. So I always try to tell people to find their purpose. If you find your purpose, then it only seem like work. Honestly, like I love going to work. I love touching the systems. I love doing everything.
Yeah, I definitely say you get out what you put in. For most things in life.
Hmm.
If you try to half-ass stuff, you'll get half-ass results. So that's probably the biggest thing I try to tell people as well.
Definitely.
And also, Quinn, I remember you did a post maybe a couple weeks ago about getting an intern. How was that process for you? Because I have stories about that as well.
um, so it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about finding people willing to work. So for me, as like a startup and trying to go in like different avenues, like with a training program, certifications, actual services. So I have everything mapped out, and I just think like, okay, for this I can delegate this role to like this type of intern and so on. So um, people will just like reach out to me, or I'll just reach out to people. I'll be like, hey, like, are you looking for a role? Like, you wanna help? Um, and they'll be like, yeah. Then I'll just call them, and be like, hey, I'll just try to like learn more about the person. But I feel like the biggest thing that I like doing is giving them value first. So, for example, I like help them with their resume, help them like with the LinkedIn pages, help them assess their goals and all that, because I feel like I should provide value to them first before they do anything on the business side. And once we establish that they're like good and they're ready for the next step, then I'll be like, okay, so I just ask them like, what do you want to work on? I'll look at their goals, see what they want to do in life, and I'll just align it with the work that I need.
From Yeah, I would say that's similar towards what we do for a lot of our interns that come on. I guess the hardest part about it was, I guess, the hiring part, like trying to filter through the candidates. Because I remember when I was like 20, 19, 21 years old, and I didn't know what was going on with my life. So trying to find, I guess, those students and those young people that have it together was probably the hardest part.
Yeah. And then also one thing I even noticed for me is I'll say I eventually see myself getting to a point where I may not have enough work or like too many people because I try to help as much people as I can. So if I see one person interested in like one aspect, I'll just like pitch it to them like, hey, I have these projects lined up. You can do this, this, this. I'll help you with these things and so on. And that's pretty much how it go. But then once those things are done, it's like, okay, well, now what? I don't want to just like keep them waiting. I want to keep driving their career just so they just don't end up like wasting their time. Or if I have like too many people, then it's like, well, am I still giving them the right amount of value that I initially planned or that I told them? Because if one person is just doing one thing to work on a project and they're done in like maybe like 3 weeks and they don't have nothing else, and it's like, well, I feel like I could like I want to help you more, but if I can't at this point, then it's like then what? So that's something I also took heed into as well.
I mean, for me personally, there's always work to be done, which I found out pretty quickly when I started this business. So that's that's something that I think is very important. Make sure they have their days planned out, they have their tasks ready, right? So they don't get bored or they're not just sitting around doing nothing. Because we do want to give them a great experience, right? So that's one of the biggest things I would definitely say.
Yeah, I was talking to someone that's like big in the tech industry before, and they were telling me like, oh no, you should wait until you have like constant clients coming in before you get interns. And I was thinking, I was like, well, I realized I was like, dude, there's all this work I need done. I don't have the time for it. People want experience in doing it. I feel like I can bring on interns now. And I was iffy about it before. So with my one intern, the first one, he reached out to me like 2 months before I actually brought him on. He was like, "Hey, I'm a cybersecurity student. I just want to get some experience." I told him like, "No, I'm not looking." But uh, then like later on, I realized like, hey, well, he wants to do this. I can help him with this, and this. I can let him build these things, and that's another thing. Like my internships, I feel like it's not just what's the word I'm looking for? It's not simple. Like the things I want them to do, I want them to like pioneer things on their own. I want it to be advanced so they can say like, "Hey, I built this, I did this," and just make themselves more credible and really give them confidence in their skills.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. So I guess you're trying to say have them build at real world projects, real world scenarios. So when they actually finish the
Hmm.
internships, it's easy for them to talk about that for the actual job that they're looking for.
Yeah.
We
So what
actually,
I
sorry,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
We actually had a question regarding to the topic that we're touching on about internships. Miguel actually said that, what do you think about non-paid internships?
Non-paid, I feel like it all depends on like the value of like what's coming out of the internship. Like if you feel like as an intern, you feel like you're doing like all this work and you're not learning anything, or you're like wasting your time, then I feel like you need to have like that discussion with whoever you're working under. Whereas on the other side, if it's like paid but you're like learning so much, you're gaining skills, you're actually like building stuff like things like I was saying, you're really like advancing in your career, then I say it's okay. In my opinion, we all have to like bite the bullet and just kind of deal like a lesser salary at first, but the work you put in, it'll definitely come in handy.
For me, it depends on the firm as well. Because I remember, because I'm from Tampa, for those of you who don't know, so I'm a huge Bucks fan. The Buccaneers
Yeah.
had, and wait a second, who's your team?
Hey man, I like the Seahawks.
And no one cares about Russell Wilson's gone now. But yeah, I'm from Tampa, so I'm a huge Bucks fan. The Bucks had an internship back when I was in college, and it was unpaid. I thought that was pretty insane. I mean, you're paying some of these players $100 million, but you can't give an intern like $15 an hour. I personally, I don't like working for free, so I try to pay people whenever I can. But
Hmm.
especially if it's like a large firm that makes multi-millions of dollars a year to billions of dollars a year, I think it's kind of ridiculous that they would have an internship for free. All right, that's my personal opinion. I get it if it's like a nonprofit or a startup or like a religious organization where they kind of function on donations. But other than that, though, I'm a very big proponent of paying people if you're gonna make them work, because I don't work for free, because I'm not a charity. Um, so my personal opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that as well. Yeah, my end goal is I want my incentives to be set, honestly. Like once they become like a full-time intern, they can I want them to come on. I talked about this on Twitter not too long ago, but I was like I want them to be able to like leave me and get a like mid-level job. Like I don't want them to like leave me and just go for like an entry-level job. I want them to be able to just be confident to like walk up and be like, hey, like I know I can get this mid-level job.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And I agree with that. That should be a pretty good goal for you, Quinn. So that was the end of the technical question. So now on the fun part. So what our next question would be, Quinn? You watch any anime?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, then what
I
is your favorite
like
anime?
mm, I'd say either Bleach or Attack on Titans.
Okay, good choice, good choice. I haven't
How about
seen
you?
the latest season of Bleach. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. Now I'm very upset with the Attack on Titan. Because they've made the last season to 4 separate seasons, which I think is utter ridiculous. So like episode
I
one of
haven't
the
watched
last
it recently.
it's season 4 is supposed to be the last season, but they made it like part one of part two. Now it's like part one of part two of part one, then it became part one of part two of part one of part two. I'm like, you made one season to
Oh
four
yeah.
separate seasons.
Why so many parts?
I don't know. I really don't understand. Because season 4 initially came out, I think, like back in 2020, and now they're like the last season, the last season, the last season. I'm like, I don't understand. So it's very annoying. My personal favorite one of the past, I would say like decade, is probably My Hero Academia. I absolutely love it. I love this was what last season was season 7, I believe, or season 6. I won't spoil it for anybody.
Oh, quick question.
Go ahead, Glenn.
I just seen that Miguel was asking some questions. Can I answer these real quick?
Yeah, we were actually gonna go over all of the questions because he has some pretty good ones that he was asking you.
Okay, I can wait until we get to that section.
Yeah, we can go towards the end.
Cool beats.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's my favorite anime, Glenn. But Bleach and Attack on Titan are good choices, so I can't fault you for those.
Okay,
You
cool,
didn't
cool.
say
I'm
One
safe.
Piece, I won't say anything.
Bro, nah. I started watching it, but I was like, bro, he's just a chewy person. He just stretches. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get to that later.
Yeah. Um It's not where Amry
That's
belongs.
basically what he is. He's a gum man.
Yeah. Yeah, where was it? But yeah. The last question we like to ask our guests is, do you use a password manager?
Yep. I
Perfect.
use Bitwarden.
Bitwarden. I'm a big fan
And
of
I
actually.
write down all my passwords in a notebook. I just leave it on my desk.
I
No.
really hope you don't.
I knew he was joking. I caught the bluff for a second.
I really have enjoyed using password manager. I've used one for the past year and a half. It's just like a time saver too, honestly. Because I use
Yeah, I
attachments.
like it.
Yeah, so it stores everything, makes it a lot easier.
I usually try to just remember everything, and I was like pretty good at it, but then I was like, might as well just use it.
It's like for the sites I use like once every other month. I don't remember the password, so I'm like, I might as well save it.
Yeah, same.
But those are all the questions we had for Quinn today. So we're going to end this episode, and then Quinn, we'll have you stay on so you can answer some of Miguel's questions afterwards.
Okay, that's cool.
Awesome. Then for the other guests, follow us on LinkedIn, visit our site, subscribe to our channel. Then for our next week's episode, we'll be interviewing Sabat from DTCC. He's an IT director. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate everyone for coming out today.